The times they were a-changin'. Space travel, the introduction of cell phones, and such things as the Barbie doll, color Polaroid film, the Beatles, and the first diet soft drinks became part of our lives. We did well at entertaining ourselves with local sports, a skating rink, bowling alley, a miniature golf course, and the Swiss and Ohio movie theaters located on Main Street. Our traditional yearly Swatcherfest began in 1958 with the 100th birthday celebration of TellCity's founding. The official TellCity flag, created by Historical Society members, was first presented at this event. In the early 60s, TellCity Chair Company became our first factory to usher in the computer age, with an IBM system that filled a room, performing what can be done with a desktop today. Our own radio station, WTCJ, was an innovator, becoming the first computerized station in Indiana. Station owners from nearby cities came to study this new development. Roland Brewer, a self-taught broadcaster and entrepreneur, started the station in 1948. When he approached a local bank for a loan, they could not understand how such an endeavor could bring in any money. The station was sold in 1999. In the 50s and 60s, we in TellCity joined the nation in a love affair with our cars. With the construction of the National Highway System, cars became our favorite mode of transportation, and we did not even have to leave town to enjoy them. One of these fine models was available for less than $3,000 in 1960. A tank of gas was $5. We took to the streets each and every Friday and Saturday evening, dragging Mang, hitting the restaurants, and honking at our passing friends. There were drive-in restaurants with real car hops. We also patronized Wook's, Blue Castle, and Frost Stop. Patio Pizza was our only local pizza restaurant and had the added benefit of allowing us to play our first video game, Pong. You can see the excitement. It was not until 1973 that Dairy Queen became our first franchise restaurant. Burger Queen and McDonald's soon followed. There were plenty of gas stations to serve our needs, and a carload of people could chip in 25 cents for an evening of dragging Maine. This pastime probably went on for 2 or 3 decades before gas prices and changing times caused us to stop. There was also the Starlight Drive-In movie, and we did not even have to leave our cars. Auto clubs sprang up in high school. Guys joined up and purchased leather jackets and license plates with their club insignia. This era brought our first motel, the Lincoln Trail Inn, which opened in 1959. In 1967, TellCity National Bank opened the first drive-in. We did not have to leave town to find a new car either. There was Werner Motor Company, the state's oldest Ford dealer, Dobie Motors, who sold Chevy and Buick, TellCity Garage and Machine Works, or Hess Sales provided a DeSoto or Plymouth. A new Nash Rambler was supplied by Vincent's Rambler. And Sandage Motors, who later sold out and was relocated to A&G Motors, dealt in Oldsmobiles and Pontiacs. By 2008, A&G was the only new car dealer in town. There was Blackie Tire, several used car dealers, and parts stores. E&OV Bus Line took us to Evansville, and Fuquay bus lines traveled to Indianapolis. Travelers could catch the bus at the Freezer Fresh. This service was still available in the early 60s. Air travel was a rarity, and the first commercial intercontinental flight from New York to LA did not take place until 1959. Our county airport opened in 1965 when local businessmen approached the county for approval for the 3,200-foot runway, taxiway, parking, hangar, and administration building. The project was funded with 95% coming from the FAA and the rest from state and local sources. Dr. John Mark James, Ed Cox, Lee Hagedorn, and Glenn Stockram were the first board members. The $231,000 project was done by local contractor Shorty Chapman. In 2005, a 1,200-foot extension to the runway was added in order to accommodate larger corporate jets and prop planes. Space travel began, and we watched breathlessly in front of our TVs as Apollo 11 made our first moon landing in 1969. Today, TellCity has moon trees growing next to the ranger station on 15th Street. The trees are sweet gums grown from seeds that have been to the moon in 1971. 5 seedlings were given to the state of Indiana in 1976, and 2 of these are at the Ranger Station. As part of a plan by the Forestry Service to study the effects of weightlessness on seeds, several hundred seeds were handed to astronaut Stuart Roosa, who was a former smoke jumper with the Forest Service, and he happily took them aboard Apollo 14. Main Street was alive with over 100 small businesses, 8 of which were grocery stores. Mom-and-pop grocery stores were scattered throughout the town and seemed to be in every neighborhood. There were over 260 businesses in TellCity, providing us with a variety of goods or services. Several stores offered men's or women's clothing. One could buy some flowers, a new carpet, or have lunch at Werner's Drugstore lunch counter. There was candy in bulk or novelties from Tressler's or Frederick's Five and Dime. We could be crafty or replace a windshield. Need a gravestone or a bike? It was available. And one could get their hair done or buy a custom-made hat from Miss Marty. One could buy a wedding dress or the material to make one. There were auto parts stores, cold beer, or ice cream. Various furniture, plumbing, and appliance stores abounded. Other locations, such as Dobie's department store, supplied us with clothing, hardware, and a soda fountain with a drugstore. Brueggenschmidt's department store had groceries and clothing, and there was even a bowling alley in the basement. Our first shopping center, Lincoln Park Plaza, opened in 1966 with 4 stores: Index, P & Hirsch, Sears, and Red and White Grocery. The Ohio River continued to be a source of inspiration, recreation, transportation, frustration, and progress. The TellCity Marina and Sunset Park were active areas. Many local citizens spent weekends on the river and anchored their boats here. There was even a party barge which could be rented by those wishing to host a dinner party, class reunion, or wedding reception. The murals inside Sunset Park, depicting TellCity history, were completed by Perry County Arts Council and done by local artists in the 1990s. The park has a memorial dedicated to Stacy Peak, a TellCity native who lost her life when terrorists struck the World Trade Center in 2001. An employee of broker Cantor Fitzgerald, Stacy had lived in New York only 2 years. H&C Ferry was our connection to Hawesville, bringing people to and from work, carrying goods, and often transporting tourists. The ferry was owned by local businessman Earl Bettinger, who introduced potato chips to TellCity. He created his own chip fryer and eventually opened the Bettinger Potato Chip Company. His daughter, Ella, before becoming a professional chemist, was the only woman licensed at the time to operate a ferry boat on the Ohio River. The ferry service continued right up until the Bob Cummings Bridge was completed. This ended the 135-year ferry operation. When the bridge first opened, it required a 30-cent toll, but this was lifted in the 90s. And then those dam people came to town. The United States Corps of Engineers began the construction of the Cannelton Locks and Dam in 1963 and completed it in 1967. Because of this project, many newcomers moved into our community and our city flourished. Although the flood wall protected us from the terrible floods of the past, we found it not infallible. In 1997, officials and volunteers rushed to create a levee as waters rushed in through a breach in the wall. The problem was quickly resolved, but it made us aware of how much we appreciate the flood wall. In 2007, the Historical Society, in coordination with the city, began a long-term project to enhance the flood wall. The historical murals begin in the 500 block of 6th Street and are to eventually extend to the entrance of Sunset Park. TellCity native Emily Reynolds Young designed the panels, and several volunteers helped do the painting. Financed with grants and donations, each panel is estimated to cost between $7,500 to $11,000.